Well, hello, American Literature 2. It is midterm week, so we have a test this week, but I can't let up off the brakes. We are going to have to continue our readings too, and we've got a big reading. We've got a big author in the history of American literature. T.S. Eliot is this week. He may be one of the most recognizable American authors, poets, modernists. And what's funny is also if you take British literature, you might read him in British literature too. That there's a whole story behind that, but we actually do have the better claim. He was an American citizen and he's born here, and so he really does belong in American literature. But hey, I'm not gonna split hairs with that. Let's take a quick look at what we're doing this week. Let's see, where are we? Here we are. Great. So this is these are the three readings we're going to be doing this week, and we're doing the Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock, Jaron Tron, and The Hollow Men. So these are three of the biggest ones. Of course, now you may have read the Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock before, but if you've not read the Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock, you have to read it in order to get through being an English major. And also you have to kind of read it so many times that you're kind of sick of it before it's all over. It's actually a very beautiful poem. It's a wonderful commentary on. Well, you know what? I'm not going to give it away. I want you to think about it. I want you to really get into it. But it is a lovely poem, and it is his most prolific and most well-read work. So it's something that you have to. I mean, if you're going to be an English major, or if you go through American literature, if you study T.S. Eliot, you have to read it. If you get in deeper, you'll read Four Quartets, you'll read The Wasteland in its entirety. You have to understand T.S. Eliot is a modernist, and he, like many of the modernists, okay, and I kind of teased modernism before, and if you want to, I actually brought up, I just recently, I was like, what's a good source if you want to just read about modernism? If you just go to the Wikipedia, I don't want you citing from Wikipedia because it's not a reliable source for citing. And here's the thing, it's actually incredibly reliable nowadays, but because most everything is going to be accurate. Occasionally there's inaccuracies. Most of the time those inaccuracies are on celebrities, or people, specific little details on their life. The big reason why I don't want you to cite it from it is that it's a reference. It's like a reference book. It would be like citing from the encyclopedia or the dictionary. You just don't do that because you can assume anybody else can go find a reference book and take a look at that. But I'm splitting hairs there too, I guess. I'm just getting into the minutia a little bit. Here's the thing. I'm okay with you going to look at what literary modernism is on Wikipedia. Really, all of these terms like modernism, naturalism. I've taken a look at this one, and it's very accurate. So if you want to look at that, take a look. I especially do like how it talks about the origins and precursors of literary modernism, and it does make reference to, I was reading this a little bit earlier, the theater of the absurd. Where was that? Here it is, the theater of the absurd, which is actually my favorite part of modernism. Um, Samuel Beckett, which sadly enough, we aren't going to be able to watch Samuel Beckett's Waiting for Godot in this class. It's just a matter of pacing and time, and I just wish we could. In fact, I will highly recommend. I don't care if you don't even really like American literature that much. Waiting for Godot is, well, I shouldn't say you'll like it because some people are just going to think it's awful. It is definitely something that will really rack your brain. And like I said, it's the theater of the absurd. So it doesn't all make logical sense. And this is one thing that we see in modernism. So modernism is this, it's incredibly jaded. Okay. So the modernists had to live through World War I, which was the first like industrial scale war. Is the first war on this massive of a scale. The casualties had never been so big, had never been so high, I should say. There was just absolute carnage, and there's a whole generation of especially Europeans, the lost generation, that these modernists they were part of, and they became incredibly jaded on the human condition, on a lot of the aspects of modernity, and so However, it's this juxtaposition of that plus a modernist generally believes that we are constantly moving forward and we're not necessarily regressing whenever we move forward in as a people. And so what the modernists decided to do is, in the words of Ezra Pound, who we will not be reading this semester, but I do believe, I mean, you can look up Ezra Pound, make it new. The idea was to leave a lot of these literary um, rules and roles of who the author is, and to reinvent what the author is, to reinvent their craft of writing. So this is why you'll see a lot of interesting wordplay. You'll see a lot of interesting uses of syntax. You're going to see also them leaving the role of the of what most people expect from an artist, which is to be a person who makes these pretty things that people see and they like, and it makes sense, and it's funny, and it's enjoyable, and it's pleasurable. And what they do is they look at somewhat of the madness of humanity. You'll see a lot of the use, some things that you already recognize. There's a great distrust of institutions of the modernists, a great distrust of any institution that at one time we once trusted in. And this was specifically blamed on the First World War, because they're the ones that got us. They were supposed to know what they were doing, but instead we had massive casualties. We had years of trench warfare, machine guns, and gas warfare. I mean, it was just a whole generation of people just gone in what seemed like a war that really didn't have much meaning. And this also led us to the modernists to believe that maybe life has no meaning. And it really, the modernists kind of got a little bit cynical. You'll see, especially with T.S. Eliot, some of these themes coming through, the cynical nature of what humanity really is. And also, a modernist is not going to believe in maybe what we might consider an objective way of looking at life. There's everything is subjective. Meaning depends on the individual. And in addition to that, you're going to also see a great deal of looking at what's going on inside the mind, the fractional aspect of the mind, the sometimes unreliable aspects of our minds. And so be on the lookout for some of those things. And again, if you want to take a look at the Wikipedia, go ahead and do that. I highly recommend, as you know, this course, I can't really get into great depth. It's not like we're going to great depth. We're doing breadth in this course. It's a survey of American literature too. So we're not going in great depth as far as the philosophies, but I would highly recommend you get into those. And I will ask you on the midterm and on the final, I will ask you to describe modernism. So I will ask you to describe literary modernism. So, and when I do that, I'm not asking you for a great thesis. I'll be asking you maybe for a paragraph or two, but you should have somewhat of an understanding of essentially the concepts that envelop literary modernism, and how it's different necessarily from the views of some of the ones that we had before: realism, regionalism. And the thing is, you'll notice that these are not like, it's not always as if one is like a reaction to the other or a polar opposite. In the world we live in now, people seem to feel like everything needs to be polarized, and it's like you're either for us or against us. It's not really like that. For the vast majority of human history, we've been pretty good at critical thinking. I'm sorry about what's going on now, but the aspects of, let's look at it in a different way, as opposed to, no, this other side is wrong because it really, when it comes down to a lot of the aspects, sometimes it's diametrically opposed. Okay, sometimes it's a reaction to the previous generation, and you're always going to see some of that, but a lot of it is, let's look at it in a different way. And we're going to see that with postmodernism, which is coming next, right? Postmodernism, of course, would be after modernism. So we're going to see that as well. So I want you to take a look. I want you to research modernism. And you can look on Wikipedia, but I would say don't let that be the last place you look. Okay. Just really try to get a handle on what modernism is in a literary uh, way. Let's see here. I'm going back to, okay. So we are here in American literature. So basically what I want you to do is um, you're going to read T.S. Eliot. You're going to read the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock, Gerentron, and the Hollow Men. And just like every week, you're going to have a weekly writing that you're going to hand in. And let's go ahead and make sure that that is set up perfectly for you. All right. So let's edit that. And so I just want you to explicate one of the readings from T.S. Eliot. That's all you have to do, okay, for the weekly reading. Just explicate it. And of course, to explicate, you're going to summarize in a paragraph. And then the second paragraph, you're going to tell me what you believe that it means. And you really try to look at the context, okay? Look at what was going on in the early 1900s to make this happen. Now, I am working on your midterm, and your midterm is going to be completely essay driven, okay? So I've been kind of tossing around different ideas as far as how to properly test you. And this is a special year in that we're doing everything virtually. So I want to give you the benefit of the doubt, and I want to really help you to demonstrate that you've done some research. And so what I'm going to do is on Wednesday, okay, so Wednesday I will release the midterm, and you will have until Friday to complete it. Okay, so it's worth 20% of your grade. It's a huge chunk of your grade. So don't take it for granted. Don't wait till the last minute. I'm giving you 3 days because I want you to spend 3 days. I mean, obviously, I'm not asking for 72 hours or something. I'm not saying 3 days straight. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to open it up on Wednesday, and it's due Friday by midnight. And it better be awesome. Okay, it should not just be one or two sentences. If I say, you need to give me at least a paragraph, boy, that paragraph should really do it, right? If I say at least a paragraph, okay? And so the reason I'm doing it this way, as opposed to a lot of multiple choice and things like that, is that I want to give you some time, and I want to give you some time, of course, to read T.S. Eliot and to kind of research modernism as well. It will be over everything we've covered in the semester so far, okay? So going back to Emily Dickinson and moving through the realists, the regionalist literature, the naturalist that we've covered, and then now with the modernists. So it's going to be covering everything we've covered. And what I'll expect is for you to essentially be able to do a lot of explication. Okay, it could be explication that we've already covered, but in a different light. I may ask you a specific question about the story or a specific question about the poem that you'll need to explain, and you'll need to provide rational explanation, a rational reason why you believe this thing to be true. Or it may simply be that I ask you what this character did in this particular story, and you'll need to be familiar with that story enough to explain what that character did. Okay, it's going to give you, I'm giving you 3 days to do it because it should take you some time to complete the assignment. It's going to be all essay or short answer. Okay, guys, that will be available for you on Wednesday, probably Wednesday by noon, and then you'll have from then to Friday night at midnight to complete the midterm, and it needs to be awesome, okay? Because I will be grading it pretty closely. If you have questions, if you have concerns, please feel free to email me, ask me questions, meet with me on any of my office hours. I'm always happy to meet with you guys. And so far, I've had a few of you guys reach out, and it's been really great. We've had good conversations, and we have some fun with literature. That's what the point of this class is. So, anyway, work on T.S. Eliot, do your weekly writing and your weekly discussion board. Okay, so go to your discussion boards, and if you need to catch up on the older discussion boards, make sure to do so. After I score, let's see, I'm gonna just make sure. Yeah, after I score your midterm grade. You can't do any makeup work on the stuff that we've already covered. Okay, so once that's scored, then the only things you can do to earn points are going to be things that we do from that point on. Okay, so if you need to make up work, if you need to do anything like that, get it done this week. because after this week, I'm not going to take any late work. So most of you guys have done a fantastic job of keeping up, and you've done a really good job. Maybe you had a few of us had a little hard time getting started with the discussion boards, but the vast majority of everybody else is doing just fantastic. So keep up the good work. Start really just review. Don't get too freaked out, but definitely review for the midterm. Research. Have in your short-term memory, or maybe take some notes on what naturalism is. I'm going to ask you to explain these things, right? So what is naturalism? What is regionalism? What is modernism? What is realism when it comes to literature? So make sure you understand that. Then you can give me a basic answer, a paragraph or two, and then I'm going to ask you some in-depth questions about some of the readings, and that's going to be your midterm. Guys, get to work, get ready, and I look forward to reading your work. Have a good week.